What is Schedule 7? What powers do border officers have? Do I need to answer questions if stopped? Can my cash be seized? Will my phone be cloned? Do I have to give my passwords out? What happens if I don't cooperate? Do I get compensation for a missed flight? This is a Community Legal Education presentation. My name's Nasir Hafizi, I'm a solicitor, and here's 16 questions answered about Schedule 7. 1. What is the purpose of Schedule 7? An examining officer may question a person for the purposes of determining whether he appears to be a terrorist. Schedule 7 gives border officers the power to stop, question, search and if necessary to detain any person at a UK international travel terminal for up to 6 hours. International travel terminals include airports, seaports and international train stations. The most striking feature of Schedule 7 is border officers do not require any reasonable suspicion that you are a terrorist or not to stop you under Schedule 7. 2. What are the 3 stages of Schedule 7? There are 3 stages of Schedule 7. They are the initial screening stage, usually lasting a few minutes, the examination stage, usually lasting up to 1 hour, and the detention stage, which could be for a further 5 hours. 3. What happens in the initial screening stage? If you are stopped by a border officer, you're asked questions. Questions to establish your identity, questions about the purpose of your travel. The initial screening stage is not formally part of Schedule 7 and should only last a few minutes. 4. What is the selection criteria for the initial screening stage? High discretion. Border officers do not require any specific intel on you or grounds of suspicion that you're a terrorist to stop you under Schedule 7. However, at complete odds with the law, the code of practice that border officers are guided by mentions the selection criteria based on the border officer looking at a number of factors. They are referred here as high discretion scenarios because it gives wide powers to the officer to select who they believe should be stopped. 3 factors are mentioned here: any information on the origins and or location of terrorist groups, possible current, emerging and future terrorist activity, and observations of an individual's behaviour. So travelling to and from particular countries or verbal and non-verbal cues could all be taken into account in deciding whether to stop you for an initial screening interview. 5. What are your duties and rights in the initial screening stage? If you are being initially screened, there is no duty on you to answer questions, to hand over your passport or other documents, to hand over passwords or phones or computers. You have a right to walk away. However, if you are uncooperative, this is likely to trigger the formal use of Schedule 7. So the general advice is that it's best to cooperate by answering these initial screening questions because the potential consequences if you don't may be a delay to your travel and worse, a missed flight. 6. What is the examination stage? The formal part of Schedule 7 begins when you are informed you have been selected for examination by a border officer to determine whether you're a terrorist or not. 7. What is the selection criteria for the examination stage, high and low discretion? The border officer's selection criteria could be based on high discretion scenarios, for example, the evasive answers you gave at the initial screening stage or how you behaved when being asked questions such as giving one-word answers or giving no eye contact during the initial screening questions, or a combination of all or some of the above. Of course, these are all allegations. Alternatively, the selection of a Schedule 7 examination may be based on what is known as low discretion scenarios, which may involve the automatic triggering of a pre-set electronic red flag against your name, most likely placed by the security services. A red flag can be either because you are on a no-fly watch list or you are on a fly watch list. Here, you'll be stopped under Schedule 7 regularly as you pass in and out of the UK. 8. What happens in the examination stage? You're given a public information leaflet about Schedule 7 and a notice which explains what Schedule 7 is, your duties and rights. You and your bags are likely to be searched. You may also be asked to hand over documents and electronic items like laptops and mobile phones, and these will be cloned and copied. And a series of questions are put to you, some of which you may feel are completely irrelevant to determine whether you are a terrorist or not. Which place of worship do you go to? How many times do you pray? Do you believe in immigration? Can you tell me the names of your friends, associates, family and mother-in-law? What are your views on religion and politics, foreign policy and international conflicts abroad? The border officer may consider these questions relevant to determine whether you're a terrorist or not. You may totally disagree and feel that these questions are irrelevant and intrusive. You may become fed up of being asked the same questions again and again, or questions which have the obvious answers to. If you don't answer questions, or you're selective in the questions you're answering, or you appear to frustrate the examination, then you might find yourself attending a court hearing for a non-compliant Schedule 7 offence, where the court decides if the questions were relevant or not, and the border officer was acting according to the law or not. 9. What are your duties and rights in the examination stage? The law gives far-reaching powers to the border officer, placing you under a duty to cooperate. There is no right to silence. You must give the border officer any information in your possession which the officer requests, which means you must answer questions which relate to determining whether you're a terrorist or not. You must hand over passport, any cash, documents, electronic items, passwords to the border officer if they request them, and you must cooperate with being searched. The border officer can detain such items up to 7 days. Thereafter they need to apply to the court, or they need to detain them under another investigative power. Despite criticisms of the law by courts and commentators, at the examination stage you don't have a right to speak to a solicitor privately, but you still should ask for one. Similarly, it's at the discretion of the border officer to inform someone you are being examined. 10. How long is the examination stage? The examination stage should last no more than 1 hour. After that, you must be released or detained under detention stage of Schedule 7, or you may be arrested for a criminal offence, or you may be detained on an immigration matter. 11. What is the selection criteria for the detention stage? Some of the reasons why you may be selected for the detention stage include 1. Your refusal to cooperate in answering questions, frustrating a search or refusing to hand over documents. Or 2. You insist on leaving or otherwise attempt to frustrate or obstruct the examination. 12. What happens at the detention stage? You continue to be questioned by the border officer. 13. What are your duties and rights in the detention stage? The border officer will explain, among other points, to you your continuing duties, that you continue to be under duty to answer questions and to provide the officer any information in your possession which the officer requests for the purposes of determining whether you're a terrorist or not, and inform you that failing to comply with a duty imposed by Schedule 7 is a criminal offence. You do have rights. These rights are to consult with the solicitor privately by phone or in person, to have consular access if you're a foreign national, and to inform a friend. All these rights can be postponed in certain circumstances. 14. What happens after the detention stage ends? The detention stage ends at the 6-hour mark, which begins from the start of the examination stage. After 6 hours, the following decisions can be made. 1. You're arrested for a terrorist-related offence or a non-terrorist-related offence. You'll be taken to a police station for interview, or you're detained under immigration laws, or you're released, or you're taken to court for a Schedule 7 non-compliance or non-cooperation offence, and if you're found guilty, the maximum sentence is 3 months in prison. 15. What about missed flights? If you missed a flight, the border officer may express regret and assist you in finding alternative flights. There is no right to an apology for being inconvenienced or for the anxiety caused to you and your family. There's no compensation for a missed flight, so please check with your travel insurance if it covers the cost of a missed flight. 16. Should you complain? If you believe the actions of the border officer were unfair, irresponsible, intrusive or discriminatory, then consider making a formal complaint. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so you can watch more videos in the series and many more. Please speak to a solicitor if you need legal advice, and may the justice be with you.